You are back once more on the Virtually Agile podcast. I'm your host, Chris Stone, the Virtual Agile Coach, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and surprisingly, folks, it isn't retrospectives. It's time for some Agile games, and who better to chat Agile games with than the co-founder of Play 14 himself? It's great to be welcoming Pierre Neis to the show. How are things, Pierre?
I'm doing well, thank you. And how are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. I'm disappointed you aren't wearing the hat that you put on at the beginning of the show, but that's okay. Won't hold you to that.
Okay. This is to look stupid like you are.
No,
But
you look great. You look
I'm
great.
wearing my Paddington because it has been made by my sister. So
Love
it's
that. There you go. For
very
anyone watching on YouTube, we are wearing silly hats, and this wasn't my idea. I was just wearing a baseball cap at the beginning of the show, and Pierre went up and grabbed a random one, and I loved that energy, so we're now both wearing hats. Now, Pierre, for anyone who isn't familiar with you, what's your story? What are you about?
we don't have enough time. To make very short, I'm officially an enterprise agile coach. It means I make agile transformation or maybe reviewing agile transformations, fixing what it doesn't work. And it's not only about IT, it's the whole companies. I design agile for everyone. This is for the short story. Before agile, I was on the lean, I was case, and I was portfolio manager. I did a lot of things. And indeed, I'm a researcher on agile organization and on systems dynamics. Here's
Quite
the
the
link.
quite the range of things there. And you touched on the agile organization there. Tell us more. What's that about?
Yeah, it's a long run. Starting first when I was a lean thinker before the Agile way, there was a couple of research documents from McKinsey about how a system organization looks like, and then the lean has been corrupted by the Six Sigma part, and then when you went to companies, they say, "Oh, I'm a lean coach." You say, "No, go away." Just about cost cutting and people firing. This is not what we are looking for. They also say, I'm also doing agile, and here this kind of resonance about the people part, and really believe it. So I'm not only I'm a questioner, but I write doing walking the talk. So in a way, is an organization. First step is there's a difference between structure and organization. In the company, which I'm an employee also, I'm a senior manager going to be an associate director. That's in the structure. So my goal is to become senior vice president, whatever, or maybe I'm way too old and getting retired before. That's my work. That's in structure. It's about my work, my evolution, my career from let's say evolution, tradition, business or evolution. But that brings any value for the company at all. So we have what brings the value for the company are the projects, the customer-related projects you're delivering. And this, so we have one part, you have the structure, my role in the system. And the second part is my role in the project to create, which is creating value. And that project, what we call like an agile team, whatever, is where you're working for a customer or to create something for the customer that you can monetize and then you can make maybe charging for the customer to get paid. So there's a big difference between one side, the structure, second part, the organization. The organization is measured about what we call a sociogram. An organization is measured about what we call an organogram. That's it. So now I was thinking, how does it possible? How does it work? So what's all the sense-making easy stuff? Sense-making easy stuff means very, very little rules, simple rules, easily understandable by everyone on the whole planet. I can't tell for Martians, but I can tell it has to be understood by the whole planet. So since the last 50 years, I tested if it's true or not. So more so it's about what are the commonalities we can build on top to create some kind of dynamic. We can call it agile. Some people call it an agile behavior. Some people are calling the mindset. I don't believe in the mindset because you're British. I'm a bastard French German living in Switzerland. So my mindset is completely different. And also a mid-aged white male, so close to the devil. So even though I have this very weird mindset too, so it doesn't link to us. So, but what is important for us is how we are interacting together. We're speaking for brain to brain, so I don't care if I have a hat or not. I know you, Chris, how you are as a human being. A funny one, but a smart one, a clever one. And it is just the most important. That dynamic is what I call agile. So I want to build companies, helping companies to build organization that having this kind of dynamic. When after a while you can't see the ages, maybe I'm shocked after 1 year, say, oh, Pierre, I do believe that you're the same age as my dad. They say, oh, fuck, that's me getting really old. And you don't even see the genders, you don't even see this. It is like it is we are working together and we're having good times together to do things that matters for us. That's a summary.
All right, so lots to unpack there. It's an interesting one how you've got the structure, as you said, you alluded to the structure, the
Yeah.
hierarchy that we commonly are aware of. You go from junior to senior to director, and most companies have to have that level of structure from a human
Yeah.
resources standpoint, from a motivational standpoint. I need to know that I'm heading in a certain direction. If I'm going to work really hard, I need to know I've got prospects I can grow. But equally, the agile world doesn't tend to work in that dynamic. We focus on autonomy and not being line managers of Scrum Masters aren't line managers to the team and so on and so forth. And agile coaches aren't line managers to Scrum Masters. Not by the book anyway. I know it happens in practice. There's an interesting dynamic there, isn't it?
Yeah, but we should not lie to each ourselves. It's not a simple one. So I knew some startups in Belgium, only the Netherlands, and say, we don't care about the names. Fine, good. Or you have this case from Samco in Brazil, they say, oh, we remove all the titles, it's working well. Yeah, but who did? Usually it's the boss, right? Who did? And they say, what about the employees? I say, I would love to be a senior manager, or I'd love to be this. I made this mistake over 10 years ago when I gave a conference in Morocco. And I say, hey guys, oh, now we're on the Scrum, and blah, 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 blah. And they say, how does it work? Say, oh, we don't need any longer managers in Scrum, now we're on Agile. And I lost everyone. Then I asked, oh, I'm sorry, what happened? I said, you know, we worked hard for family to have a title, to be something that makes the pride of a family, right? Because we're from a village, and maybe I'm the only one from a family who has a very good job. And if I say I'm a doctor or I'm a manager, everyone is proud, right?
Yeah, it's a prestige thing. It's something you go for, like that you want to feel proud of, and that your family and the people around you are proud of. They talk about, oh, my son, the doctor. There's a huge power to it.
It is absolutely, and that's also something you have not to neglect. You can say, "Oh, we know we are more agile." This is like the joke from Trevor Noah about colonization of India. We discover land. Oh, let's call it Welcome to Great Britain. And say, "Who are you? I'm Indian." Oh, we discover Indians. He explained that this is colonization style, and we all having it. It's not condemning, is something we had and we have to honor. Maybe not my generation, maybe the next one. So, but these ideals is a goal. Doesn't mean we can reach it on one shot. But you have to accept the language. If my family is asking me what I'm doing, I never say I'm an agile coach. I have no clue about it. See, I'm my grandmother. Say, what are you doing? Say, I'm helping organization to do better, to be more performing, and global alignment, because how to set up the thing. They say, Pierre, I have no clue what you're talking about. They say, are you happy? Are you making money? That's fine. Thank you. That's enough for me, right?
I tend
So
to just stick with, hey, I help companies continuously improve, because if I say my real title, as you say, like that won't know what that means. A friend of mine a few years ago used to try and joke with me because my title at the time was release train engineer, and he would say, "Oh, how many trains have you released this week, Chris?" And it's a title that makes no sense to anyone outside of the IT or the software or the agile world. And therefore, just keep it simple. I help companies improve. And the
take
important
a
thing
look,
is, am I enjoying that? And is it helping me live a life that I'm looking to live?
take a look at another title, change manager. So
Change
change manager,
manager.
you're thinking about, oh, you're leading change. Not true if you're infrastructure.
Mm.
Change manager is a release train manager. and we are using words. And when I started to be an Agile coach, and people were customers, oh, you're an Agile coach, okay, and what's your job? And say, oh, I'm a consultant, I'm a project manager. It was an easy way to tell things because you don't need to come with the huge debates. I'm helping companies, usually they're doing SAFe or something else. They say, oh, you're an expert in SAFe. I say to them, I say, yes, of course. What do you want to try to solve? When I work in an Agile community, I say, SAFe is bullshit. And I believe SAFe is bullshit. But when a customer is asking me advice about SAFe, I say, what do we try to solve? So, oh, an American company, we want to have alignment all around the world. They have to adopt the SAFe way. Say, can you help us? I say, I can't do this because it won't work. We tried it, never worked. We tried it a couple of times, it never worked, and you will lose a lot of money. And so instead, start to think about how the people are working and make the best of it and align people. And then, or another company say, we want to have SAFe. It's okay, what's your problem? I say, we have an alignment problem because it's a private banking and the world is turning very fast around. They're feeling unsafe, way too, not robust, is more in stone, too stiff, not able to respond to the changing evolution of the market. This is what we want to have. Or another company want to be agile for what reasons? Because you want to sell the company. Say, okay, let's make a lovely, happy bride.
There are, I believe, only three certainties in life, Pierre: death, taxes, and people complaining about SAFe. I wouldn't say I'm a SAFe advocate nor someone who complains about it heavily. I believe it's an option at companies' disposal. It's a very well marketed option that lots of companies have adopted. It could be seen as a bit of a minimum viable transfer from maybe the traditional ways of working of past that seems a little bit less resistant-esque and not too huge of a change. But I do believe it has its promises in certain ways.
You know what I'm seeing SAFe is like when my youngest daughter was 4 years ago, making a scrappy picture. Oh, Daddy, have you seen these pictures? Oh, yes, it's lovely.
It's amazing. I'll put it on my fridge.
It's crap. So SAFe is crap. It has been sold by people who have no clue about Agile. So it pisses people off. The problem is the side effect. I have no problem. We have tons of methodologies. I create a couple of them. You can say my methodology is crap. I'm okay. That's not a big problem. The problem is now we're getting to the customer and they're telling you, you have to be this. Say, sorry, I say, I have to be nothing. You're not going to the doctor and telling the doctor what to do. I want to first take a look and then ask you what you want to do, what you want to achieve. Let's do it together. So it's if you start to apply methodology, if your methodology is saving the way of working, you're wrong. Even if you apply Scrum as let's say, a process, you're wrong. Even if you use XP, Extreme Program, as a process, you're wrong. Because it's about thinking.
Yeah, my personal stance is that I will look to understand the outcome or problem trying to be solved by the company first. Then I will look to understand how their current ways of working, be they waterfall, agile, SAFe, lean, XP, or otherwise, how are those current ways of working supporting you achieving those outcomes? And then thirdly, what evidence do you have and how are you continuously improving those ways of working? And everything beyond that is just an experiment in finding what works for them. And to be honest, I don't care, Pierre, if it's a mixture of frameworks, a bit from this, a bit from that, a bride polished up in certain ways, as long as it works for them and their people and their culture and their situation, that's all that matters to me.
That's the main problem, because I still have in my head a voice from a former team member from one of our teams. We have a chat at the desk at past 6 p.m. You see, oh, Pierre, I'm working on this shitty processes improvement in that shitty system. I've fixed the bugs in the data, and now I always have 1 zillion people working on my data and breaking down everything, and you shitty Agile. I say, oh, that's good. It's, if you understand that the work with our colleagues, the people we are working with, are already very complicated, and you come and add more complication, but you have to follow the methodology. You're just wrong. It's when you set up, even let's talk just about the Scrum. Say, oh, we want to initiate a Scrum, or we have multiple teams. Fine. Say, okay, this is the goal. Do you want to give trainings? No, I want to start. And you start and you see how you're working, what is going well, you start with a retrospective. And then you say, okay, what can we improve? Have any good ideas? Then maybe you make a workshop, a brainstorming workshop in teams. Then you say, okay, let's just do dailies. Let's see what happens. Then you add more. At the end of the year, I gave a training. I call it a checkbox training, checking the boxes. Say, oh, this is what we do. This is what we do. Yeah, now you're certified Scrum. Because it made sense for them. It's not about applying methodology. They understand the practices. They came out. We know the old range. We can roll out. I can come, make your training during 20 days, then the following 90 days to set up all the teams, supporting, delivering, checkbox down, complete, and move away. You spend a lot of money, and then you have this kind of cake is melting down over time. Then you come back 6 months later, it's like nothing happened, right? And that's why we have coaches and not trainers, because we're educators. We're all in hands, we are be there. And we're using the game, or I love to say gamification. It's a game. We always say that before, a long time ago. We are playing the game of Agile. We are playing the game of Scrum, meaning it's not taking that so seriously and having fun.
There's so much to be said about not taking things seriously. My personal mission is to help people continuously improve every day and have fun in the process. And this is why I love games. It's why I love the idea that Agile is a game, that whatever approach you're trying is a game, that work is a game. Let's make it playful, let's make it fun. And it's a beautiful segue into Play 14, Pierre. So tell us about Play 14. You are the co-founder of it. What is it and what inspired you to create it?
What inspired? My best inspiration, I was pissed off.
So it began with anger.
That's the beginning. 10 years ago, I was pissed off. And I had a colleague of mine, Jan, we say, oh, I want to go to that conference. I say, okay, if it works well, I'm happy for you. But let's register to this conference. And they open a conference, and after a second, it was booked. You see, what? I was pissed. Then you booked, and then you have to send a video of yourself. Say, what is it? Then Jan called me and said, Pierre, I guess you're right. Pierre, I guess it's the time to make your conference. I said, no, I want to make a conference with you guys and with you. And this time, because we're really big, okay, this is something that's working, or not working for me, at least for me. Let's try out a new idea. It's composed about conferences that are already existing. Is instead of having a one conference, then you have to come in that corner of the earth every year. Say, let's go straight to the people. Let's make small conferences, non-profit, and that you're meeting people with a lot of ideas, and not only for Agile people, because I want to have new blood, people differently. And that was then we onboarded another colleague, Cedric, and we started, this is in 1 to 2 weeks time, and then we started doing things, and now we had Manila, we had Sydney, we had now I'm planning Zurich. The next on Thursday I will be in Bologna, you will have Munich, everywhere. It mostly all the fees you're paying is for yourself. It's for the location, it's for the food, it's for the catering, it's for the stationery, everything. And it's an open space-based organization model, which is by nature, in my mind, an Agile organization model. So if you want to live a very good Agile experiment, go there.
Just for any listeners that have not participated in a conference in person versus an unconference or an open space conference, the difference is that at a traditional conference, you will go, there will be a clear agenda, a speaker will be on at a certain time slot, and you go and listen to that speaker, and then there might be breaks punctuated for networking and otherwise. With an open space or more of a free format, an unconference style, what tends to happen is the participants all arrive together and then they collectively co-create the agenda together. They might suggest, I would love to run a session on this topic, or I want to run an agile game on this topic. And then anyone who wants to come along and take part in or help facilitate or otherwise can do so. The kind of the law of 2 feet applies, right? You can go where you wish to go, and whatever happens in that space happens in that space. That's perfectly okay.
Yeah, and we are tricked it a little bit to ensure that you will have a positive outcome. So we're starting the evening before. We start with socializing. And socializing event is about 2 and 3 hours. We're just doing 2, 3 hours only icebreakers. And ideally, very stupid one. Because you have to have a laughter.
Yeah.
You have to say, oh, that's a safe place. I can tell even my stupid dad jokes, right? Or I can have fun people, have fun buddies, and then, like in Asterix and Obelix, if you know, it ends with a big dinner altogether, and the same tables, usually in the same location. And this is how we start, and then we explain the rule of the open space, and then the organization is asking who want to facilitate tomorrow's open space. So we are handing over the whole organization to the attendees. And the next day they will start over. And this is 2 days. Then the day after again. Okay, we make a debrief of what you learned. Did you like it? Yes, no. And then we make a second round, second day again, with maybe other people. And then at the ending we are taking over. Thanks for coming, blah, 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 takeaways or no takeaways. And usually you have people, in Zurich, we have a friend, Scott Poshran, he's coming from Cincinnati, and he will organize it in the US. So if you want to organize one, you have to attend once. So he will come just for this, and he bought his ticket, he will be coming there, and yeah. And we are speaking different languages, and even the language doesn't matter.
So back to your statement then that this style of doing a conference, whatever you want to call it, this style, this open space format feels more agile to you. I agree with that because if you think back to how agile works in organizations, we aspire for autonomy. We say we create the time box, we ensure the time box is clear, we ensure there's a clear goal, and then we try to hand over the autonomy to the team to decide what it is they're working on and how they're going to deliver to that. And the same with this and this conference style, this Play 14, you're saying, right, the time box is here, we're handing over to you, you decide, you co-create what you're going to focus on, and yeah, let's just enjoy it.
And we push the button more far. Because at the beginning we had a centralized organization. It's a non-profit organization registered in Luxembourg because it was the place we used to live there, and we managed the things for most of the conferences. So insurance, costs, T-shirts, blah blah, and some sponsoring. And after a while, the only one that proved Cedric was the only one still living in Luxembourg. I say, hey guys, I have way too much work. I say, what can we do? I say, okay, let's gather near you and let's go to the restaurant. And they talk. I say, what should we do? Controlling or nothing? I say, do less, do less, do less. Let them decide. Let the country decide. And we say we just keep in the minimum set. So keep the brand, the T-shirts, share, get a mentor. If you want to start, get a mentor. If you have a Slack channel, you find a mentor, and don't be an asshole. And just be a decent humankind, and that's it. That's super simple rules, and we're keeping these rules. And from the co-founders who are all the CEOs, we just CEO of nothing. But this is how it works. Now we have 40, 50 events in a year. And that's, people are free to manage how they want.
Amazing. Now, one of my favorite quotes, Pierre, is, I believe, attributed to Benjamin Franklin. It's tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. And I know it's one that resonates with Play 14. It's basically how I deliver any training or workshop or talk. I bear that in mind before I do so because I want to involve people in the process. That's why when I deliver a talk on site, I don't talk at people. I regularly interact with the crowd. I get them involved in the process. So With that in mind, this whole quote, why do you believe agile games are so powerful?
Agile games are not powerful per se,
Okay.
because I had a session with Agile games. It was, to be really awful, and I learned nothing. It was just, for me, a waste of my time. I was standing respectfully there because if I'm leaving earlier, it will be more problematic. No, it's a tool for facilitation. If you get the ideas of facilitation, you can use any kind of games to get the job done. And we had issues in Britain where we start doing this, and we invited somebody which is very famous, and that person was confused about the high level of energy. He was, oh, this is way too crazy for me. The first time, right? So that person was sitting in the corner and said, oh, I went there talking with him, and I say, what's happening? I say, oh, that's way too much for me. I don't get your point with the games. I don't get it. Say, okay, then have a conversation and think about it. It's maybe not a game, because you can do it for fun. Okay, you will have parts for fun. Usually we do icebreakers for fun, but the rest is not icebreakers. The rest is deep diving into something, a topic. It's a simulation, it's an exercise. Then that person thought about it, came back the next day, now I get it. Yeah, because it's an exercise. All my trainings, they all have an exercise. It's usually a game or a combination of games. Because I design games which are a combination of games. I run a leadership workshop with people from a hotel ask me just gaming. They have 17 games in a row. That story of the games brought them to think is about the thought process. So you have one step is one game to learn behavior, one game to learn how to visualize your workflow, right, or your value stream flow. Another game, how to improve your value flow, how to work as a team in teams, how to make and this. Then people that don't have the feeling of playing, but having this kind of fear removed. Now, I'm free to do things here, and that's cool, and it's not focused. And usually people are, oh, can you, in the training, can you be very specific in our area of work, you see? Then I did it, and it was wrong. Because you will have, 50 guys, and maybe from the 55 from this area of work, and all the others, I'm not from this area of work, I'm not concerned. It's not my business, right? And then you say, oh, now it's about drawing a brochure for Martian tourists coming visiting Australia. It's about funny stories. And in that funny stories, you have a lesson to learn. I give you here. Big workshop, SAP headquarters, 150 people, and you start draw how to make toasts. A very known game from Tom Vujek. And then what's happening is important is the debriefing. What are you doing with this game? Then the next day and the whole week, to design all the business processes based on how to draw or toast my business process. Because they find it a way which is more soft, smooth, interesting, collaborative to co-create the solution together. And removing from their traditional way of working.
So if I can recap back what you've shared there, it's not the game itself that's powerful, but it's the learning that it unlocks. It's the creative freedom that it provides that ultimately is then anchored back to their context and what they can do with that information in their world of work.
Absolutely, that's absolutely correct. And when you go now deeply on the learning part, if you see if you go and people say, oh, just go on Udemy or something like this, then you have this kind of training. You say, oh, I don't want to go there. I'm learning nothing, right? Just give me a link on the YouTube channel. I'll watch 5 minutes. That's large enough. I'm losing my time. Then you think about which training were the best for you. I was trainings like lab activities in university, research group, right? This is, you go deeply. So say, A training, usually in 1 hour, one topic per hour. Then you start your hour. This is the topic we want to initiate today, blah, 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 blah. And then you say, and I have an exercise, which is usually a game. And that's because when Agile, that game is made for failures. And you start laughing for failures. So make an iteration. Then you say, oh, what should you do? Then you ask questions like, do you want to continue this way because you have no results? What's happening? Okay, how do you want to solve it? I don't know. Okay, see you in 50 minutes. Up to you. And they have to organize themselves. At the end, everyone wins. And then comes the important part, the debriefing. What have you learned? They say, I learned this. Oh, that's okay. And you say, have you seen this? Have you seen that? And that's all is called that have. And then you have 1-2 slides about the theoretical, and then you jump in the next one.
I tend to, when I run an agile game, I tend to do so using the 4 C's from the training at the back of the room. So I begin with kind of let's connect them to the subject matter. We will contextualize why it's important. We'll do some concrete practice, i.e. the game. And at the end, the debrief comes in the form of conclusions. And that comes in well, what does this mean in the context of what we're working on now? And how can we bring that learning back to what we're doing? How can it make a difference for us? So that's how I tend to debrief it. And one of the interesting slight hacks or language tweaks I heard you say when we were discussing that was rebadging an agile game as a simulation or an exercise. Because there are some people who do hear agile game and think, oh, well, this is work. Why are we playing games? I'm not here to do that. And they're a bit resistant to it. And sometimes just calling it a simulation, it's a language change, still doing the exact same thing, but calling it a simulation, a work simulation, whatever you want to call that, can help ease that resistance.
Absolutely. Think about 100 people with suit and ties coming Monday morning from a traffic jam stress, and I have this kind of stupid guy making games in it. I'm not losing my time with you. No. Then you have to be a little bit pushy mom here. Oh, remove your time. Make yourself easy. Come on. Let's count to 33. Are you good in math? Then they're feeling, and we are all laughing. After 10 minutes, they're all laughing. And then you jump into the second, that's the icebreaker, then you jump into something else. It's about create a sense of belonging very rapidly through that game. That game is very nurturing. It's creating this kind of really this safe to fill container. We are just improving the game. We're not talking about your job. We're not talking about your situation. It's not finger pointing. And because theater, you make yourself sure that everyone has to fail. You don't have the geek in the best in class. No. Have the feeling that, oh shit, we're doing better. And you can play, and then you have to let them go. Because you have some great facilitators that just talking all the time. And the thing is, you make an icebreaker, you make your show, you open the doors, and you let them go. And you come back later.
Excellent. Now, some of you folks may be unaware that I used to host a meetup called the Agile Arcade, which was inspired by Play 14. It was something that, obviously, Pierre, you know a lot about. In the Agile Arcade, what we would do is we would meet and I'd be the games master and I'd allow the audience to spend their metaphorical coin as if they were walking into a real arcade, choosing which games they wanted to play from a selection, and then we'd play games with the time box we had available. So I'm a big fan of Agile games. I probably should launch one of those meetups again sometime with the Virtual Agile meetup. And perhaps I should invite you along as a co-host perhaps sometime.
Yeah, feel free.
What I'm keen to understand though from you is what is your favorite Agile game and why?
The one I created, one of the games I created, because it's called the Agile Animal Farm.
The Agile Animal Farm. I think I've heard of that. Tell me more.
Yeah, it's about behaviors. So we have the animal farms like George Orwell's novel, and you have the pigs, which are the doers. Then you have rats, foxes, bulls, chicken, just giving eggs, and even sometimes rotten eggs or broken eggs. So you have different behaviors, and you will understand that Agile, what we call Agile, is being proactive, being pigs, right? And that's the favorite one. And that was also the initial idea of making the AO model. because I wanted to, people asking me to give a keynote in Montreal. Say, oh, do you have a title for keynote? Yeah, how to make a pig pen. Say, no, you can't say that. Okay, I will do it more seriously. So then I create this. And in fact, it's all about how I can keep this behavior, this peak proactive behavior of funny, you want to do it. Not because you're forced, because you want, right? And in the whole company, worldwide. That's the challenge. Or like Jane McGonigal saying, I don't understand why people can't be focused more than 42 minutes at work and over 3 hours when I play World of Warcraft. Let's use that dynamic.
Interesting. And someone recently diagnosed with ADHD, that very much resonates because I can focus a lot on a video game, which is constantly changing and constantly challenging, constantly varied. Whereas sitting at a desk working on a topic that doesn't interest me as much, doesn't captivate my interest as much, where I don't get the same hits of dopamine, is much harder.
Yeah, no. From a organizational psychology point of view, is you do it, you can't focus because it's boring.
Yeah.
Because you have to do it because you have to do it. And the question, the other question, if you have to do it because you have to do it, automatize it.
Now, based on your Animal Farm game, my question is, are all agile animals equal, or are some more equal than others?
I love to be a seagull.
Just
I'm
a,
a seagull.
just a quote from the book. I'm being playful. Now I want to try something. Before I try something, I want to share my top agile game. My top agile game is, I think it's a tie between two. I'm a big fan of agile battleships. I know it was created by James Scrimshire, I believe, and I think Chris Caswell has done another variation as well.
Chris, I played
You
with
know,
Chris.
Chris. The one I like to do is the one that gets you thinking about feedback loops and the importance of them. And I often use them in the context of retrospectives and the power of retrospectives. Obviously, they provide you a short, sharp feedback loop, instant or shorter feedback that enables you to learn, adjust your approach accordingly. The other game I love is the Gauntlet of Technical Debt, where you have people dashing about a room to deliver things through a workflow, and then you gradually start introducing chairs in their path to introduce the build of technical debt, or to contextualize the build of a technical debt, and eventually it gets so many chairs get in the way, their work slows down drastically, they can't proceed, and then like that's what happens in companies. They get to this point where they slow things down so much because they forget about it, they push it to the side, they don't worry about technical debt, it builds up, it slows them down, and then you start to try and encourage practices where they remove tech debt incrementally. So every time they complete something in their workflow, they also remove a chair from their path. And obviously it speeds things back up again. So I love that game as a way of letting people know the challenges of tech debt. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show, Pierre. Folks, don't forget to follow or subscribe to get the latest episodes as they land. And if you found the episode in the show, pay the tax by sharing it with someone else who might enjoy it. As always, don't stop believing. Thanks for being on, Pierre. Bye.